I don't know about you guys, but whenever I hear an American politician actually mention God or the Bible or something that has to do with, God's moral laws and stuff like that, I get really intrigued by that. Because as you folks know, an American politician nowadays, for one of them to actually even mention God, that's very rare. It's almost non-existent nowadays. I mean, compared to back when our nation was founded, I know this, and you folks know this as well. Our founding fathers, a lot of them were Christians, not all of them, but at the very least, they had the utmost respect for God and the Bible. And I mean, our nation was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. That's why we became the greatest nation on earth, and that's why God blessed us so much because we made him the ruler of our country. He was our God, and therefore, because of that, he blessed us immensely, and he's protected us for the longest time, and we've been blessed for the longest time. And up until as recently as 50 years, in my opinion, I still believed a lot of our politicians had the utmost respect for him. But as you folks know, and I know a lot of Americans have noticed, and myself have noticed, to hear an American politician even mention God or his word is very rare nowadays. So when you actually do hear a politician talk about that, and in this case, I'm talking about Mike Johnson, the new Speaker of the House of Representatives, I can't help but get a little bit excited. And I know what some of you guys are thinking. Like, we've seen this before. We've seen an American politician. He's very strong in the faith. Mike Johnson, a lot of people are saying he's a Christian. He's a good, strong Christian. We've seen this before. We've seen politicians go up there. They're really strong in the word, in faith. And once they get up there and they get power, all of a sudden they become weak to that and they just crumble on the scene. And it's really disheartening and embarrassing for true believers like us, and they really get us fooled. So when Mike Johnson became our new speaker, I was really intrigued by this, and I wanted to do a little digging on this guy. Not that much, but I haven't done that much so far, but I found enough material to really give me a pretty decent idea of who this guy is. I mean, he's the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and he's third in line for the presidency, so I think every American ought to know just a little bit about who this guy is. And from what I've found so far, it's pretty good. I'm not going to lie, I like his stance on abortion. I think abortion is one big key issue facing America right now, and his stance and approval rating on abortion is really good in my opinion. And if all that proves to be true, I hope he doesn't crumble on the scene like a lot of other Republicans do once they get into power. And he is also one of the few Republicans in the House I was reading who actually supported reducing the funding to Ukraine, or just like stopping it entirely, which I think is a good thing. It lets me know that he actually cares about the American people, and he doesn't like our tax dollars, being sent overseas to some other country who's not even grateful for the aid we provided for them. So I think that was a really good thing. So abortion, I like his stance on that. I like his stance on Ukraine funding. I think he's getting tired of sending money to Ukraine. And his address to Congress and the nation when he was first elected speaker, I think, was pretty good. He actually mentioned God and the Bible a few times, and it was, a very pleasant thing to hear, because it's not something you hear every day up in Washington.
And to ensure that our republic remains standing as the great beacon of light and hope and freedom in a world that desperately needs it. It was in 1962 that our national motto, "In God We Trust," was adorned above this rostrum. And if you look at the little guide that they give tourists and constituents who come and visit the house, if you turn in there to about page 14 in the middle of that guide, it tells you the history of this. And it says very simply, these words were placed here above us. This motto was placed here as a rebuke of the Cold War era philosophy of the Soviet Union. That philosophy was Marxism and communism. which begins with the premise that there is no God. This is a critical distinction that is also articulated in our nation's birth certificate. We know the language well, the famous second paragraph that we used to have children memorize in school, and they don't do that so often anymore, but they should. G.K. Chesterton was the famous British philosopher and statesman, and he said one time, America is the only nation in the world that is founded upon a creed. And he said it's listed with almost theological lucidity in the Declaration of Independence. What is our creed? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, not born equal, created equal. And they are endowed by the same inalienable rights, with the same inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That is the creed that has animated our nation since its founding, that has made us the great nation that we are. And we're in a time of extraordinary crisis right now. And the world needs us to be strong. They need us to remember our creed and our admonition.
So Mike Johnson, after reading a little bit about him, I think I would definitely support him if I was a representative voting on a new speaker. I would definitely vote for him. He seems, for the most part, really legit. I hope he stands his ground. I hope he doesn't back down. And, I always say you got to remain hopeful. And, right now he's got to be hopeful that he'll be a decent speaker to the House. And if he really is a Christian, like he says he is, then that should hopefully be no problem for him at all.